coming up this month on the four best.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but just a little bit back, there's this event that happens every 4 years in the wintertime. This year it was in Italy. It was called the Olympics. Have you heard of this?
I have. I thought you were going down the road of Serge's pierogi sweatshop.
We live it loud. This month we break the clouds.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're tuning in from, and welcome to our next episode of the Four Best Podcast. I am your host, Isaac Scott, and I am also joined with...
This is Sergey.
Hi, this is Nate.
I'm Mac.
All right, and welcome to our sixth episode of the Four Best Podcast. And this is a podcast where four best friends get together and talk about the best things that are going on in their lives. And if you want to hear more details about this specific podcast and its origin, I'd encourage you to go back and check out episode 1, where we go into deep detail on why we created this podcast and what we are hoping to achieve with it. But for now, we are going to go ahead and kick off this episode, and we are going to welcome Mr. Sergey Blackor to the microphone.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so my best of the month is actually pretty cool because I got to spend it with one of the other best here, Mac. You know, it's not often that I've traveled too much with this current position. I traveled a little bit more from before, but we actually got to go to San Diego together for the annual assembly of hospice and palliative care presented by the American Academy of Hospice and something else. It was a really cool opportunity. We did this work later last year about trying to better understand, like, what is it that helps our teams, our intake team, which is kind of like a sales team, engage, patients. It's really tough, right? Because we're not selling a product that people want, right? They're not lining up to get hospice care or palliative care, any of this stuff. It's kind of one of those things where it comes to you. And so it was really interesting to kind of like dive into some of that work, understand what kind of verbiage is successful, what's not, what kind of approaches. And one of the physicians we work with, she actually was like, hey, you guys have something here. It's like really interesting. Why don't you take it to the next level and think about submitting it to the annual assembly? And one of our coworkers, she's just awesome. She really ran with that idea. And then we worked together with a few other coworkers who were part of this. We submitted this research that we had, which ended up being I'll just read the title here, but improving patient engagement in community palliative care through statistical call analysis. That last piece is important because that's where Mac shines. He really was able to take what I would say is mostly qualitative information and was able to like quantify it in a way that statistically made it relevant and could show what were the things that were helping us to further our team's ability to be successful with bringing on new people. And we went out to San Diego for it, which I think is awesome to be able to do together. Beautiful weather. I haven't been out there for a couple of years. Just really enjoyed being out in the sun. Waking up at 6 a.m. and being able to like go outside, see people running, rollerblading, walking. It's just like such a different place than Pittsburgh. So I don't know if that's a little bit of my seasonal depression there coming in because it gets really dark and gloomy around here, but then seeing the blue skies, seeing the water, such a beautiful place. And then we had, of course, like great food and stuff like that. And then the conference itself was fascinating. Guys, I mostly spent looking at two topics. One we talked about last month, which was AI. There was quite a few topics about, prompting. There was some really cool stuff around like triage, how AI they were testing out the different AI models to find out which of them could triage and kind of pinpoint which patients would need a ventilator if you're limited on being able to provide it for everybody and like testing some of that out. I did some DEI things, which is also of interest to me around like diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really fascinating in California right now. So those are kind of like the topics I picked and really got a lot out of it. It was just nice to be able to get away. So that's my good thing is putting together this work with Mac and some other colleagues and being able to present it. We did this like minute rapid poster presentation. So we didn't go out there and speak for 30 minutes. It was just funny because every single person had 1 minute to fit everything in. They were just like speed reading. And so it's funny because like you can use AI now to say, hey, condense this thing to just 1 minute. And it's so good at that. And I could tell like most people didn't do that, but we were on top of it. And I thought we nailed it pretty well. So it was cool.
Serge, can you give your 1 minute pitch that you did with your poster?
Oh, man, I didn't give the pitch, though. I left that to the pros. I don't know, but
Oh.
maybe Mac can. Is this where Mac wants to jump in and spin it?
I only know that you have to raise your hands at the beginning. Then I forgot.
That's right.
Yeah,
Raise your hand if you've ever had a hard time calling a patient and trying to engage them.
yeah. Our coworker Laura did fantastic leading the project and presenting. It was pretty cool, and the overall experience was great. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really been to a conference before like that, so it was fascinating to see like some of the other people's work and just kind of enjoy it.
Was there any takeaway that you had, Mac?
The first day we went, there was like a professional speaker that came in, and she was talking about leadership and how to like better connect to employees to build relationships. Talked about sort of how now most of our lives, it's like most of our community is based out of our work itself because we don't have some of the old modes of communal building that we used to. So we don't really have like clubs, or a lot of people don't have like religious activities. They don't have hobbies and stuff that bring them together. So it's like family and work, and that's it. So it's just kind of some neat things that were being talked about in that meeting. Then I went to a lot of talks about the AI integration and tried to just learn a little bit about statistical methods that were being used by some of these other groups, but I didn't get that much. It was just kind of cool to just be there, see everything. San Diego is awesome. It's a great city, just super expensive though. Especially that area is really pricey. Fortunately, work paid for it.
It was really nice. By the way, that first speaker, Mac, was probably the most relevant because it's kind of Isaac. It's like the opening speaker. You know, they hire somebody, probably pay them a big amount of money, and they're really able to like connect the bigger picture about what we do because she talked about how her family, I think it was her brother and her dad had recently gone through palliative care and then hospice, and then she connected it to the larger picture of life in general, which I always appreciate.
What was some of the response from your guys' idea as your kind of poster was being presented out? Like, what was some of the response from the people in the crowd, or was it pretty much one-way communication?
It was one way. There wasn't a lot of time for back and forth, and so like after everyone presented their posters, we went out to like stand with our posters so people could ask questions, but there wasn't a lot of questions being asked. And honestly, I think we had anticipated the poster presentation to have a lot more people present at it, and it really was like the presenters and the people that came with those presenters. So there wasn't a lot of like interaction, which was kind of a shame. It would have been nice to have had that as like just have seen a little bit more interest, like everyone's work.
I was thinking the same thing. Like it says there was 3,000 people there, and it really did end up being like the people who were there to support the people who were part of their poster presentation. So
It's a cool experience, though. Have either of you been to San Diego before, or was that first time for both of you?
First time for me.
I went to San Diego because the aunt that we moved to Pittsburgh for originally, my mom's sister, she ended up moving to San Diego, and actually that was the last time. Like the previous trip was visiting her before she had passed away. She was pretty sick with something with her liver, but that was the trip that I took. And then actually that was part of a positive trip too, where Kelsey and I got to go to her friend's wedding, her friend Brooke. So that was a really nice place, and it was nice to come back. I would love to live in a location like that. Like I can't imagine waking up every day and it's like the sun is there and like you can wear shorts.
Yeah, I think it's like the most moderate climate in the United States, San Diego. It doesn't change a whole lot, but also doesn't get super hot, things like that, I think. So it's a nice area.
To your point, Serge, I can attest that it is absolutely beautiful to be in shorts 85% of the year. Not to rub it in, because I know you guys are having winter weather, but it is very nice. It does something to your spirit and emotional state to be in the sun and be outside.
I don't think we were ever meant to be this much indoors. At least not me. The older I get, the more I want to be outside. So anyway, thank you all. And believe our next speaker, I want to go ahead and present that off to Nate, who's going to tell us a really awesome best from his month.
Well, thanks, Serge. Thanks for sharing that about your trip and everything. And so my best this last month is one of those things that's taking, lemons and making lemonade situation where on what was it, February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, I got hit in my car. I was slowing down to make a left-hand turn, and whoever was behind me wasn't paying super close attention and was still accelerating before they realized that I was slowing down, and they hit me. They hit my car, and the car ended up getting totaled. Well, the passenger side rear wheel was basically falling off as I pulled it over to the side of the road, and I think the frame got damaged a little bit, and that was enough that they decided that they weren't going to pay to fix the car and instead just to total it. But my awesome part about all that is that I was okay. I was already having a little bit of back pain that day anyway, and so I don't know how much worse that may have made it. I've been rear-ended before, and I had back pain at a slower speed also, and I had back pain for a week or two, and I was younger, and here I am, an older guy now than I was 20 years ago, getting hit probably faster, and I ended up being just fine. So I'm just so grateful for that and thankful. Shout out to Subaru, my 2015 Subaru Outback, who took the hit for me. As a result of that, it made me feel so good about Subarus and the confidence. And it was my first Subaru that I've replaced it with another Subaru Outback. I didn't even realize that their safety ratings were so high, but I came out of that pretty well unscathed. The other guy, his airbag went off and he was a little bit injured and a little shook up, but I could just walk away. And so besides all the frustration of having to deal with a broken car and dealing with the insurance companies and having to go get a new car and all that stuff that I hate dealing with, and it's so frustrating and ultimately ends up costing me a bunch more money than I wanted to spend, I'm okay. So grateful for that. In fact, I've known people who've just been rear-ended in slower accidents that have had lifelong back problems as a result of that. Have you guys had situations like that? Have you had any accidents before?
I've had a very similar accident where my car actually was a brand new car. I had gotten it in college and I drove it. It was I can't remember which year it was, but it was a Toyota Corolla. And I remember I was actually driving to a funeral, and it was for a coworker. I was waiting to drive from an on-ramp onwards, and there was somebody in front of me, so I was waiting for that Jeep to go on. Somebody behind me came roaring, Nate. And I think she just wasn't paying attention. I think she was pregnant, so there was, like, a lot of stuff going on there. She rammed me, and it was similar. The car kind of became like an accordion, and they basically threw it out whenever they assessed it and said, "We're just gonna write you a check. There's nothing we can do." But I remember walking out, and I just like you, I was so incredibly thankful because I had no back pain. I actually went to go check in on her, and I was like, "Hey, are you all right?" Like, just like that, like, reassurance of like, "Hey, I'm still here." And I still jokingly say this because I don't know if your kids went to daycare and they would give them, like, snacks at the end of the day. My daughter would get graham crackers, and my car would always have graham cracker crumbs all over it because she would eat it while we would drive home. She wasn't with me that day, but I hated vacuuming it, and I walked out of the car and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't have to clean up those graham cracker crumbs anymore." So I had a little bit of, like, humor to it because
Nice.
it's you walk away and you really do feel differently. So, Nate, I am so glad to hear you're okay. I know the guys are gonna all kind of back that up. We've all had sort of incidences like that, but just it's such a blessing to make it out okay. So, I'm happy to hear that, Nate.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I've never had like any major fender benders. I got like one mild one where the guy like kind of scratched a rear bumper because I had to slam on brakes because somebody was starting to merge when they very clearly shouldn't have. So I had to slam on the brakes, and the guy behind me couldn't stop fast enough. It was pretty mild. And then I've had a car totaled, but it was parked and no one was in it.
Oh, yeah, I
Nothing
remember that.
nothing too bad for me, but it is great to know that you're safe and you're not hurting. I know you when it first happened to you, it said like you had a little bit of like a headache too that was there, but it's great that that didn't persist. So
That's true. I did. Yeah, you're right. And how much of that was just deal with the stress of things because it
yeah.
was definitely annoying.
Nate, I would just say that first and foremost, super thankful that you are you are okay and that the car did what it was supposed to do and protect you in that type of situation. So truly a miracle that, you walked away from that. 'Cause it sounded like that guy who hit you didn't really realize it until like the last minute, right, when you were talking about it. So, and he tried to kind of veer and kind of caught the corner of your vehicle, right, versus hitting you kind of dead center where he thought.
Yeah. Yep. You got that right.
You were asking like, have I been through any of those situations before? And we actually had one when Isaiah was very young. And so if he's listening, he doesn't even remember this because I think he was, gosh, maybe like 18 months old or something like that. And we were actually in Pittsburgh, and we were driving. We were going to my mom's house over in Stanton Heights, and we were I forget what road it was, but we were basically on the road going up to her, probably Stanton Avenue, and we had just come through a light and was starting to speed up, coming out of the light, probably going about 20, 30 miles an hour, and all of a sudden I looked to the left just to see something on the sidewalk, and when I looked back, a car had gone from a parked stall and did a U-turn right in front of me,
Oh.
and so saw it just the last minute and like swerved into the oncoming traffic lane, slammed on my brakes, and ended up T-boning them almost dead center on their door. And what was amazing is we were driving a Toyota Sienna at the time, and we just had like some minor scratches and dents in our front fender. She was driving a Chevy Cobalt, and it just like obliterated the Cobalt. Like it was just like the whole door panel was blown away, the glass was blown out, all the airbags came out all over the place. And
Jeez.
fortunately, everybody walked away, no injuries, no ambulance, nothing like that, and everybody was fine. But it's a very scary situation, and kind of taking it back almost into my current role, have 2,300 drivers driving all across the country, and the stories that you hear that are happening out on the roadways today would just scare you. And distracted driving is one of the biggest ones, where for whatever reason people are addicted to their cell phone and they just can't seem to put it down while they're driving and operating a vehicle. It is like one of the leading growing causes of accidents out in the US. I actually just pulled it up just to see statistically what it is. And that's, roughly 1.6 million crashes each year are caused by cell phone use while driving. And it accounts for 13% of all fatal crashes. So
Honestly, I'm gonna say you don't even need the cell phone now because like all this, like all the cars have those giant touchscreen like audio panels. New cars do. I find those extremely distracting.
yeah, kind of. I think more so it's the people who are watching shows, who are
Oh,
video
yeah.
calling, who are on social media. You're literally taking your mind off of what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're
Right.
focusing on something else. And not only your mind, but you're taking your eyes off of it, right? And you're completely focused on something different, completely distracted, versus momentary lapses of judgment. So I say all that because it's a very scary situation whenever you're in accidents. And teaching Lydia to drive right now, she has her permit, and one of the first things that they talk about is that a car is really probably the most dangerous weapon on the planet, if you really think about it, because more people die in car crashes than any other means. And it's just, they can be a tremendous tool, but when not used and handled appropriately, they can really be deadly. So say all that because just super thankful that everything worked out for the best. And sounds like God had his hand on you, Nate, and was protecting you, and everything worked out the way that it was meant to.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Lydia starting to drive and stuff, I think about my son about to get his permit also, and just that reminder that one thing that this could have been way worse is before making that left-hand turn, as I slowed down, I kept my wheel straight. If I had started to, stop and then turn that wheel, like I know sometimes some people will kind of do, is they'll wait to make that left-hand turn and they keep it the wheel turned left prematurely. I would have gone into traffic and hit someone else. I would have been knocked into someone else, but instead I kept it straight, so I got hit straight.
Yep.
So that's a lifesaver. That's the way that you're supposed to do it.
I'll just say that driverless cars could not come sooner. Like that's one technology that I really want to see infused before my kids start driving, because I just think so many people, whether you're drunk driving, whether you're distracted, like they're doing it already, right? I've talked to a few Tesla owners and their cars drive for themselves. They just have to keep their eyes on the road because it'll remind them. I'm like, I want that tech out there so badly because people are just so distracted and have little focus.
And you know what, Serge? Actually, the car I got, a 2022 Subaru Outback, has a function called eyesight on it that has 2 cameras that are looking out all the time that helps make sure, gives me a warning if I start to go off inside the lanes. And already twice I've had someone pull out in front of me, and it started to apply the brakes for me before I did. It didn't like how fast I was approaching that person and started to hit the brakes. So that technology is becoming more and more prevalent, even in just the cars that we already drive.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
glad to hear that.
Well, thanks, Nate, for sharing that.
Isaac, why don't you tell us what's going on with you this past month?
Thanks, Mac. Yeah, so for my best, guys, I'm gonna jump back in. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my kids because they had a couple things that happened over the last month, and as I was thinking through my best moments, there were 2 things that kind of popped out for me. And so, like last time, I'm gonna kind of lump this together as my kids. The first one, I'll start with Isaiah. I mentioned back in December he had started a new job at this fabrication company, and has really just been excelling. Just kind of made a good mark on the company as a new employee. They've been kind of bringing him to first shift, training him on different items, and having him take that back to night shift to kind of be that expert in certain areas, and is just really kind of growing into this full-time job life. And so he's doing some great stuff. And I bring that up because he just passed his probationary period, so now he's officially full-time, and they're really happy with him and want to continue to see him grow there. But he also has chosen to continue with his college education, and so he did the welding program that I talked about in previous episodes. And part of the program at Daytona State is he was able to take that welding program, and he was able to apply those credits towards associate's degree. And so he has continued on with that. He's been taking classes online, and he just, he shot me a text just this past week and said he just wrapped up, college chemistry. And, he thinks he got a 98.5 in the class, and, was just super proud of himself. So working full time on night shift, and still taking classes part time. He's just making it happen. So I thought that was just really cool. So that was the one piece. And then the second one, which was just a really cool moment, is we talk a lot about Lydia with her volleyball, but she plays on this club team called Cape Coast, and so they travel around the different tournaments. Most of them are within the state of Florida, and then they'll do a couple that are outside of the state, of just kind of these highly competitive volleyball in U16. So they had their first national qualifier tournament, which is a tournament where they go and they play against a bunch of different teams that are out there. And if you come in first place, then you get a bid to nationals, which I think I mentioned in a previous episode. It was in Dallas last year, and so we ended up winning that in our team last year. And so they had their first national qualifier this last month, and it was actually in Orlando, so not too far away from us. And so went to this tournament called the Sunshine Qualifier, and there was just an immense amount of people there. I think there was like over 300 volleyball courts just spread throughout this convention center, and just massive. So you can just imagine the amount of people, imagine the amount of noise, and just competitive play. But Lydia's team, they're playing in the open division, which is not normal for them. So normally their teams are more like middle of the pack when it comes to these big tournaments like this. And so, you typically will drop down a little bit because you want to have a better chance of getting a bid. But this year, their coach was feeling pretty good about the skills on the team, and so basically, decided to put them in open, which is basically competing against literally the best in the country. And so the tournament was really cool to experience, but there was one moment in particular that I thought was really neat, because a lot of the parents were, questioning whether or not we really should be in that division, just because of how competitive the play is. But there was this one game that we played, and it was against this team called TAV. They were a team out of Texas, and they are ranked number 2 in the country of all 16s. And so, in context, I think there's like over 3,400 16s teams across the country. So this is the number 2 team in the entire country, and we're ranked like 700 or something like that, right? And so everybody thought we were going to go into this game and just get completely blown out. And instead, we ended up giving them a real run for their money. Ended up not beating them in the end, but we gave them a real run for their money in the first game, and we were actually leading them for the first set. And what was cool is we have this one video of Lydia where she has just this awesome set that comes to her, and she hits the ball to the back corner right by where the coach is standing, and you just see the coach melt because he just can't believe that this is happening, because they thought they were just come in and just railroad all over us, and we were just giving him such a run for the money. So it was just super fun because there was like probably 300 people around this court. It was like the court that everybody wanted to watch, and including probably like 50 to 100 different colleges that were there, kind of scouting out different players. So it felt like you were almost like in a big league game watching it. So it was really just fun to see the team really perform and just kind of be a part of that action. That was just kind of, best moment. We go to a lot of these different tournaments, and you can always pick out moments, but that was one that was just a real highlight because the team performed extremely well, and they should be very proud of themselves. And actually, at the end of the tournament, they ended up, finishing like mid-pack. They were like, I think they came in 23rd out of 49 or something like that in their division. But when you look at them against all the other 16 teams that were at that tournament because they were playing at the top, I ran the math for it, and it was actually they came in the top 8% of all the teams out there. So 23rd out of 304 teams, and it was in the top 8%. So really, just kind of a cool thing, and it was fun to be a part of.
That's awesome. I'm curious if the team like had some jitters or something, like just playing at such a big level, at such a high level, can like really like get your nerves, or like that aspect of it. Or sometimes when you're so new to something, you just don't know to not have those nerves. What did you see?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there were absolutely games that I think that they had nerves, because there were games that they lost that I think that they were probably the better team or just as good. And then I think in that game that I was telling you about, that was one that I think that they just went out there with nothing to lose, and they just went out there and gave it their all, and they just played for fun, and they just played their hearts out. And again, like I said, ultimately they didn't win, but man, you wouldn't have known it by the way that they were celebrating in the end. They really played hard, and they did end up winning a couple games against some higher ranked teams that, again, I don't think they were expecting us to beat them. So we came in pretty low in our division, and they ended up finishing in kind of I think it was like the top 30% or something like that of in their divisions, which was really just an impressive feat overall.
Lydia's really crushing it. I've seen quite a few videos you post on Facebook proudly and share those, and I always really enjoy jumping in just for a few minutes. And it's funny because I can hear conversations. Sometimes I think I've heard you and Rachel talk, and then sometimes there's another guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Probably just people walking by. But are you, by the way, real quick, are you recording those yourself, or is that just happen to be that you're next to the camera and you can get the footage?
No, yeah. So I'm recording myself. So I'm
nice.
what the team calls the Huddle Dad. So we use this program called Huddle, which is where you upload your videos, and then there's this AI technology that basically breaks down every play, organizes it by player, and then you can create your own highlight reels. So I have a tripod and I have an iPad that records every game, and then I also have my phone over on the side that does Facebook Live, which is probably more what you guys see when you're seeing me put stuff out there. So I stream all of the matches through Facebook Live. So that way, all of the parents, grandparents, family, friends, anybody who wants to tune in and watch it can kind of catch the games if they're not able to be there. Because again, when you're traveling around, not everybody can always go to the destinations.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was going to say, I noticed that. I was like, that's really well done. But I was going to ask you a quick question about Isaiah, because I think that's fascinating. So he's living on his own now, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And so, because we were talking a few months ago, or I don't even know when it was, but like failure to launch or being able to launch your kids and feel like, okay, like they're in a good place now. Did he just join a community college and just like, hey, I'm going to take classes and I'm going to let you know, Dad?
Yeah.
Because like you're not talking to him as much anymore about like what you should do. You're letting him kind of decide for himself. Like, how did that feel for you? Like, how did it come about?
Yeah, a good question. So he's taking it at Daytona State College, which is where he did the welding program. And so they have almost like a magnet program or whatever you want to call it, where basically they're able, if you complete the welding program at Daytona State, they will take those as credits towards an associate's degree. And so as they do that, it helps give him a jump start into that degree. So then he only has like a year of classes that he needs to go complete to get that degree. And then that also applies for a bachelor's degree that he is aspiring to finish. It's like a business management degree, or operations management is what he'll end up with in the end, which is awesome for him because, we've talked a lot about, what he eventually wants to do. And eventually he wants to be an independent welder or own his own business. And it's like, well, great. Then, these are all classes that are going to help you do that, right? When you're getting your degree, we talked about in previous episodes that it, helps you become kind of that higher functioning employee, right? And so if he wants to run his own business, great. He's taking like accounting classes right now. He's learning business management. He's learning leadership theory. He's learning all these different classes that are going to set him up for that future success. So I think it's part discussion that we've had, but I think it's also he's out in the real world and he's really seeing it and experiencing it. And, I think he's starting to see the value in what that education will bring in the long term.
I'm really proud of him. I mean, I know you're proud of him, but just like
Yeah.
you talking, I mean, both your kids are doing amazing, but just for him again, being out on his own, starting to make some really big decisions and like going back to school, it's a hard motivator and it only gets
Mhm.
harder the more years go on. I often think to myself, oh, should I do more? So just, I'm really, really impressed by him, Isaac. Great
Yeah.
job.
No, I'm super proud of him.
Both your kids, things that I really like and that are evident here is they work hard. I think they got that from you. But Isaiah, I remember taking on and creating his own little businesses, right? Fixing things. He
Mhm.
just has an interest in that, and he's willing to put in the work. So that's great
Yep.
that he's doing that. And it's fun for me to hear about what Lydia is doing because sometimes you hear stories about people loving a sport early in their life and really committing all the time into it, and she's doing that. And I don't know that I've really known other people who've really committed to the sport as much that I've personally known as she has to like continue year round playing volleyball to really get personal training with it and work on all the details of it.
Mhm.
So it's always exciting to hear that she's doing well, and I hope to be able to follow her career. But I don't think people realize how much goes into being really good at these things. That every once in a while you hear these stories of these people who are just naturals and figure things out, but most of the people have to put in an incredible amount of work
Mhm.
and dedication, and she puts in a lot. So it's great that she has success from that, and I hope she continues to enjoy it also. And it's fun to have those successes. So
Appreciate you bringing that up. And it's spot on. Again, I think we've talked about it in previous episodes as well, that just it's like the iceberg analogy, right? Where people just see the success. They don't see all the hard work that goes into it. And she definitely puts in the work and she loves it. I mean, it's like even when we're not doing this indoor thing, she does beach volleyball tournaments on the weekends that were free. So we're full on volleyball every chance we get. And she also got kind of a cool moment. So kind of coming out of that Orlando tournament that I was talking about, she also got reached out to by a college. So up in South Carolina, and they set up a call with her and just kind of wanted to find out more about her. Reached out to her and wanting to find out more interest about what she wants to go do eventually. So that really kind of puts some extra pep in her step as well. And,
Yeah.
because somebody's kind of taking an interest in all the hard work that she's putting in.
that's awesome. Go bigger. Go bigger.
That's right.
Well, this is going to be the first of many colleges, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, officially, like the NCAA Division I colleges can't contact her until after June 15th of her sophomore year. So I still have a few months. I think after June, I agree. I think that's when probably floodgates are going to start to open. It's
That's
a
wild
fun
that
and exciting time.
that starts that early
Yeah.
for recruitment. I bet she does get recruited, and I think that like a lot of times they like bring them in for like summer training at the college too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hope. So
If
we'll
I
see how it all
remember
shakes out.
correctly, Pitt had a pretty impressive women's volleyball team this last year.
Yeah, they do have a very impressive volleyball team.
Not impressive weather though, so I wouldn't recommend it. I would say try to find something in San Diego.
That's
That's probably a better idea for if she wants to continue on beach also, huh?
Yeah.
yeah, that right there is the big question that she's trying to figure out is if she wants to go to school for indoor or for beach. But kind of a fun time, being in the moment and really being a part of it because I just really sit back and reflect and it's like these are the last couple years that we have with her in high school and really just enjoying every moment we have going to these different events and seeing her work hard and succeed. But that is my best, guys. So thanks for letting me again kind of cheat the system a little bit because I love talking about my kids, especially when there's things that they're doing that just proud of them. So that's my best. And with that, I think that brings us to our fourth and final best. And so with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Mr. Mac Kravitz to bring us home.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but just a little bit back, there's this event that happens every 4 years in the wintertime. This year was in Italy. It was called the
This is
Olympics. Have you heard of
I,
this?
I have. I thought you were going down the road of Serge's pierogi sweatshop.
No, that happens annually.
Oh yeah, got it.
That's a once a year event. Yeah. Tell
So
us a little bit about this mom and pop event.
yeah, it's a pretty small thing. Just like almost all of the nations in the world come together to participate. I've been really excited for it. Is particularly Olympic hockey. This is like it's a big thing. This is the first time in 12 years that NHL players are participating in the games again. So like this is this is big and super exciting. I like hunkered down and made sure like I watched every US game, men's and women's. It was super exciting. I watched most of the Canadian men's games too. You know, I really enjoy hockey. I enjoy watching like NHL games, and it's like it's clearly a level up from those games. Everything's just at basically at super speed. It's like we were playing like hockey video games, and you could just hit like the boost button nonstop, right? And that's kind of how it feels. It's like, oh, everyone's going so much faster. Everything's just like so much more precise. It can be like mind-boggling how cool it is. And there's great hockey like across the board. Unfortunately, like Sidney Crosby got injured, so like he was out for the final. So I guess as an American, yay, he didn't score another golden goal. But as a Penguins fan, I'm disappointed that he's injured. I'm a big Crosby fan. It was just really cool. Did any of you guys watch any of the Olympics or any of the hockey?
You know, believe it or not, like I didn't watch a ton of the Olympics, but for whatever reason, I was watching a ton of curling.
Oh,
I
that's the
don't.
best.
It just like it for whatever reason I was traveling for a couple weeks, and it was like it seemed like every time I turned around, curling was on, and it is like magnetic. I don't know what it is. I don't fully understand it. It kind of reminds me of shuffleboard, but there's just something mesmerizing to see the skill and precision that goes into curling. And there's always a crowd around me. Like we'll be watching this, and like all of a sudden these random people just come and we'll be watching curling. It's really bizarre. So,
And this
but
year had the double tap issue with Canada,
the
and they
scandal, that's
totally
right.
did it.
Yeah.
Yep. Caught on video.
Yep, that's a scandal.
It was
but
like
no real hockey. Mostly just
Yeah.
curling is what I saw.
Yeah. Also the US won. US men and women won gold, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
Very cool.
Unfortunately, the men's team like stuff got tarnished after it, so like that was kind of a downer that like the day following like it was scandal, and it's just like, oh, can't these guys just get a chance to celebrate and enjoy like winning gold? This is basically their lifelong dream, and immediately gets tainted, and that was kind of a downer. But the game itself was great, and sometimes in games like that where like I'm watching, I don't always know who I'm rooting for. I don't know if you ever like have that feeling where you're watching and you kind of feel like a little bit indifferent to it, and then like you either get upset that one team lost, or you get really excited that one team won, and you're like, oh, that's who I was rooting for. I kind of felt that way at the end of that game where like the US scored. I'm just like, yeah. Had a little pump, the fist pump, and like I think I clapped. It was great. And like I said, the women's hockey, they're very different like scenarios. The U.S. women were they were a steamroller. It was actually surprising in the final that it was so close, because that team felt like an inevitability to win. I think they gave up 2 goals in the tournament. I think they outscored opponents 32-2 in that tournament. So
Cool.
they were a steamroller. The men's games was it was super close, and it was never certain who would win. Both teams were pretty evenly matched, so it was very different games. It was just really cool, and it's one of those things where it's getting to see the Olympics and having that happen just is awesome, and you get to see such talented people, such committed people, those athletes who've spent all their lives working so hard.
It's a great story to have two teams from the same country win also. I know that's pretty rare and a lot of fun. And so I love the Olympics. I wish I had time to watch it. I didn't actually watch any of it, but historically I've loved the fervor and show of it all, and it's a really big deal to see the best people doing the best. You made me think of a quick little story about Sidney Crosby that it's not really about him, it's about his sister. And I remember hearing this, that she was also a hockey player in college. And while he was a superstar for the NHL, and her bio basically for her college team says a little bit of stuff about her and her accomplishments, and then it ends with saying her brother plays hockey too.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
that sounds about right.
Funny. Yeah, I just loved that little mention that, oh yeah, she has a brother who plays hockey, but he's
Awesome.
obviously a really big deal. So I hope he gets better soon and can do well for the Penguins.
Yeah, he should be back in a couple of days, maybe a couple of games.
Did,
He's been skating.
did any of the Pens play on the Olympic team? Malkin
So
or Evgeny?
no, so Malkin doesn't play because Russia is banned from the Olympics still.
Oh, he can't play on Team US. Okay, I didn't know. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, no, so you have to. I think all you need is passport for the nation that you're representing, but
Oh, I see.
Malkin wouldn't have been good enough to play for Team USA. It was a stacked team this year. So obviously Crosby played for Canada. Former Penguin Jake Gensel played for Team USA. Ricard Raquel and Eric Carlson played for Sweden. And our goalie, or one of our goalies, Artur Silosh, Shilosh. I remember the first time I heard his name announced, it kind of sounded like they were saying Shelob, so I always think of that. He does look like a giant spider too, which is helpful. Yeah, he played for Latvia, so he was one of the goaltenders for Latvia. I think that's it.
Yeah, Mac, I was just I was looking up basically when hockey entered into the Olympics. So fun little trivia.
1998.
Fun little trivia for you. When was the first
Oh, first,
Olympic ice hockey game played? Without Googling. Serge, I see you.
so first Olympic ice hockey game. So I know the NHL started allowed players in 1998, the
Okay.
Nagano Olympics, where the Czech Republic won because Dominik Hasek decided he was going to win Olympic gold. I'm going to guess 1944.
1944. Okay. Serge, Nate.
I'm gonna say
Go.
1952.
Okay, I'm gonna say 1953. I mean,
You learned from the last
1956.
time. You learned from the last
I
time.
remember.
Without going over.
Nate, I like your guess on a non-Olympic year.
I knew it didn't. Yeah, as long as I'm closest, it doesn't matter.
Yes, that's right.
And they only split the years out in 1994. That's the first
right.
time Winter Olympics were not on the same year as the Summer Olympics. So what was it, Isaac?
All right. So it is actually 1920.
Oh wow!
Wow.
So
28
106 years ago, according to the NHL website, the Winnipeg Falcons brought home the gold to Canada after winning in Belgium. Ice hockey, or so called, to differentiate from the game that played on grass, made its Olympic debut, and the Winnipeg Falcons winning the historic first gold medal in Belgium in 1920, representing Canada. 7 nations of amateur players curiously skated in Belgium under the umbrella of the Summer Olympics in the game of, however you say that, Vilth Olympiad.
Olympiad?
Yeah. 4 years later, the sport would be featured in France in the first Olympic Winter Games. But in 1920, with little fanfare and before the opening ceremony, the puck was dropped on the Belgian rink for a tournament that pleased and also puzzled its spectators.
I could imagine it'd be very confusing at the time because I wonder, ice hockey's had a lot of changes. I wonder if at the time they even had forward passing.
Yeah, good
I
question.
don't know if you guys know that. Like, for a long time, you weren't allowed to pass the puck forward.
So what did you do? Only backwards?
Yeah, so you could like drop passes.
That's a weird rule.
Is that like
It's-
rugby? Is that rugby where you
American football used
lateral
to
or-
do that.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well,
Huh.
there you go. Well, that was cool.
Yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
All right. Well, thanks, Mac. So I think that wraps us up. So this brings us down to the end of our 6th episode. So appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening to this episode. And so just as a reminder, we drop our episodes on the 4th of every month at 4:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so you'll be able to catch our next episode in the month of May on May 4th at 4:44 p.m.
May the
and
fourth
also
be with you.
May the 4th be with you. And also just want to remind you that if you haven't done so, make sure to like and subscribe and rate our podcasts, depending on what form you're listening to them on. If it's YouTube, you're going to like it and subscribe. If you're on any of the other podcast platforms, then you'll want to
Give us
subscribe
a
and
5-star
rate.
review.
That's right. So, and again, just as a reminder, when you subscribe, anytime we drop a new episode, if you forget that it's the 4th at 4:44 p.m., you'll get a notification. And then by rating us on these episodes, it helps move them up in the algorithm through AI mastery, helps bring it to people's attention so that they can also listen and tune into it. So, and then also just a reminder, if you're on X, so are we at 4Best Pod. So make sure to jump on there and follow us. And
Okay.
for now, that's a wrap. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
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 For best friends since way back when.